You could be the most optimistic, happy person up here, but if you don't put in the work, and if you don't know what work to put in, it's not gonna happen. Optimism is very close to delusion. However, I believe that optimism is the fuel to practicality, right? If you don't believe you're doing it for a reason or it's exciting, you're not gonna wanna put in the hours of the work. And so, that's who I've always been. I've always been ambitious and happy. I was very fortunate. I had a tremendous mother who loved me very, very much, so I felt good. However, she did not create entitlement. When I lost or when I was doing bad, she told me. She didn't make a fake environment, which is a huge factor. And to be honest, my biggest concern about the last 20 years of parenting, too much fake environments, too much entitlement, which is why so many people struggle when they go into the real world, because the real world doesn't care. The real world is not your mama anymore. And so I think about those things. Fast forward, I was very good at selling baseball cards. When you're making $3,000 or $4,000 a weekend when you're 14 years old, you've got it. I was good, fine. But then my dad eventually bought a liquor store and he dragged me into the liquor store when I was 14. I started making $2 an hour, bagging ice. This was huge for me. If I didn't have that transition, all the money I was making as a young kid, it came so easy because I was naturally talented. I think not having that struggle of losing all that because my dad forced me to work in the store and making $20 a day, that really helped me. And I learned a lot in that liquor store. Most of all, what I learned was to watch people. I will go to the airport and on my flight, I will literally read most of the comments on Twitter, on Instagram, your DMs. I will read them, and I'll read them to understand, was there anything I said in this hour that stood out, that didn't hit, that did hit? I learned that watching people, and more importantly, understanding people, and most importantly, being empathetic to people was the best way to build a real business, to build something meaningful. The biggest problem, I'll tell you right now, one of the biggest reasons most people in this room, if they decide to start an entrepreneurial venture, a side hustle, whether you try to sell something in your home on Facebook Marketplace, which, oh, by the way, I'm gonna bring up later, my biggest belief that the quickest way for many people here to start is to sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace, but I'll talk about that later. Whether it's that, whether you're finally ready to start your podcast on Spotify, whether you're gonna build your Instagram profile or meme page because you want brand dollars, whatever you're up to in this room, the reality is that if you have to put in so much work, but so much of what comes out of people's mouth or what they post is selfish, not selfless. It's what you want. You want them to buy it. You want them to like your post. You want them to follow you. The biggest reason I have the luxury of standing here today is from the wine business, to the content I made on YouTube when it first came out, to everything I've done over the last 8 to 9 years in my books, in all my free content. I've always thought, how do I bring more value to you than I get in return? It's very simple. Karma, or doing the right thing, always works. The problem is, most people are impatient. The reason most people are impatient, especially in cultures like mine, Eastern European, in cultures like here, there's too many people in here that are trying to get successful too fast because they want to prove it to their parents. And in that impatience is a very important point. My friends, the number one thing I fear, period, is that people live their lives based on other people's opinions. The number one thing that I have seen as I've gotten older that has been very obvious to me is that most of the people here today do many of the things they do because of 1 to 5 people's opinions in their lives, whether their parents, their spouse, their older sibling, their neighbor. Living your life predicated on the judgment of somebody else is the great weakness of the human being. No matter how I tell you how to leave 500 comments on Instagram posts, or what time to post your posts, or why you should start a Spotify podcast tomorrow, or how you actually list an item on Facebook Marketplace, no matter what I tell you, if you post the first day and the person that you're worried about has a bad opinion of it, it's already game over. And so I flew all the way here, 24 hours, to put pressure on what is the most obvious conversation, which is, are you prepared to finally get quiet in your head and not allow the opinions of others to dictate your behaviors? Every person here knows what they want to do. If you're here today, there's something running through your mind that you want to do. There's no reason for you to be here today unless there's something running through your mind that you want to do. We were grown-ups already before the internet came. I was 18 years old. I'd lived my life, at least the childhood part of my life, without the internet. The biggest thing that excites me, especially in a mature internet market like here, WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Spotify, like, there's so much opportunity and you don't even have to leave your home. There was no building your life, after hours when I was growing up. When you had a job and you had to take care of something, you didn't then start another job because it was late. But now this allows it. The biggest thing that I want to get across in this little moment of this speech is everybody in here is taking this for granted. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, they didn't have this. If you aren't succeeding or attacking your success with this in your hand, then what are you doing? Every single person here has the opportunity to create a profile and a presence online, whether it's yourself or your business or your idea, and the cost is zero. I love when people get mad when Facebook or Instagram's organic reach goes down. I keep reminding them it's free. Over the next year or two, Instagram's reach is going to go down because more ads are going to go in. So as you can imagine, I'm so passionate to get you to post 3 or 4 times a day, not once a day, yet everybody overthinks their posts so much because they're so scared not to get as many likes as they did last time. True. It's 100% true. The amount of people here who want to post something but retake it 53 times or change the filter or things of that nature, or my favorite move, you post it, but in the first 83 seconds you don't get enough likes and you remove it. It's a fascinating thing for me to watch because what it speaks to is, in my opinion, people being confused about the game. I view the game macro. I watch most people play micro. You're not in the business of getting likes on Instagram, yet you're pandering to the machine of that. You're in the business of creating awareness for whatever you want. You want people to know what you want them to know, whatever that may be. Business, raise money for a charity, sell something, become a personal brand, whatever it might be, that's what you want, yet people get so caught up in the semantics. Listen, what I can tell you from my career is this repeats over and over and over again. In 2006, I started one of the first YouTube shows, period. It was the longest show on YouTube when I launched it. YouTube wasn't even a year old. I sat in front of a camera and I drank wine for 30 minutes and a lot of people watched it. A year later, Twitter came out and I was one of the first people to move on that. I invested because I got smarter at that point, but I also was one of the first people to amass 1 million followers on that platform. Before I did YouTube and Twitter, a year or two earlier in America and many other parts of the world, MySpace had won and dominated, and there were people that won on that platform. If you pay attention to what happened on MySpace, if you pay attention to what happened on YouTube, if you pay attention to what happened on Twitter and then Facebook and then Vine and on and on and on, it's all the same game. In the beginning, if you move quickly, you can get more attention. Most people get frustrated that they aren't first, and then they don't go all in because they think they missed it. However, winning on these platforms is a game of being better, not first.